Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, man. I'm so excited. You know, we did this series. The first one was with Ott on you know, how did you get to where you're at? And I've got the awesome Jimmy Houston. Got to fish with him today. I want to ask Jimmy.
Did you realize that Ott Defoe was once a professional bowler?
No.
You didn't know that?
No, he didn't.
He averaged like 232 or something. He's amazing. Just ask him about that next time.
I'll ask him.
Tell him I was telling you about that. I bowled with him, and he's awesome to bowl with. He's a lot of fun.
He's a lot of fun to do everything with.
I beat him a few times.
Did you?
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Okay, go ahead.
I want to ask, you know, a lot of the kids these days, like, how do you become a professional fisherman? How did you get to where you're at? And I got to fish with you today. I got to learn lots of neat things about you. I want to know, how did you get into fishing?
Well, you know, we were talking out there while we were fishing in the boat, and I don't really know when I became a pro fisherman. Somewhere along the line, they started calling guys like me and Roland and Hank Parker and a lot of us, Bill Dance, professional fishermen. We didn't really realize that's what we were, and we started fishing tournaments. I started back when I was in college. I fished for tournaments for 54 years, and we were fishing tournaments originally just because it was a lot of fun. It was something new. Mm-hmm. We enjoyed all the people, and you're competing against the fish, you're competing against each other. And bass fishing has always been a competition game, even if it's just you and your buddy, or you and your wife, or you and your son or daughter. You're always competing in the biggest fish and first fish, mm-hmm. and it's always just friendly competition. And you know, the amazing thing about professional bass fishing is it's still friendly competition, even though we're playing for hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're still happy for the other guy's success, and we realize that, you know, he just beat us. He caught more pounds or more fish or whatever than we did. And so we were just doing that, and then somewhere along the way, they started calling us professionals, and it's so much different in those earlier days. But I just always fished. I mean, I cannot remember when I caught my first fish. I can't remember when I caught my first bass. I think I must have.
You can't remember that?
No, I probably was like 2 or 3 years old or something.
Did your parents fish?
My mom and dad both fished. My uncles fished, and I grew up on a creek bank and in a fishing boat, and not the bass boats like we have nowadays, but aluminum fishing boats. And I paid my way through college selling catfish. So my dad bought a resort on Lake Tenkiller when I was a senior in high school, between my junior and senior year. So I moved to the lake and went from fishing farm ponds and fishing with my dad on lakes on the weekends and everything to being able to fish every day. And so by the time I'd gone through my senior year of high school and 4 years of college, I'd caught thousands of bass. And I hadn't any idea whether I was a good bass fisherman or a bad bass fisherman. It didn't really matter. You know, I just could catch fish, and we'd go out there and catch fish. And I married a girl that, you know, loved to catch fish, and we learned how to catch them together. And then all of a sudden these tournaments come up, and I entered the Oklahoma State Championships like we used to have here in Oklahoma years ago. And we had preliminaries, and I fished a preliminary at Eufaula and finished 4th, which did not qualify me to fish the state championship because you had to be in the top 3. And I fished another preliminary the following week at Lake Fort Gibson and won that one. And so I qualified for the finals, which is on Lake Eufaula here in Oklahoma. And I won that. No, it was on Lake Keystone, excuse me, Lake Keystone. And I won that one. And so I'd fished 3 tournaments, won 2 of them, and I thought, this is pretty much fun. I kind of like this. And of course, that was the best winning streak I ever had, I think. But,
oh no, oh no.
Not really. But you know, I'd fished 3 tournaments and won 2 and finished 4th in the other one. And it was just something that, and then I started fishing. That qualified me by winning the state champion to fish the World Series of Sports Fishing, which was the precursor to like BASS and Project Sports and American Angler, American Bass Fishing Association, all of the organizations that started back there in the early days of bass fishing. And I got to go fish that and got to fish with, at the time, the very best bass fishermen in the world, names that a lot of people are not even familiar with now, but people like at that time, probably the very best fisherman was Glenn Causey. And he was great. He's from over in Bull Shoals, Arkansas. But he was great, but he didn't win tournaments like our own Joe Krieger from here in Oklahoma. Virgil Ward, who started championship fishing after winning that World Series of Sports Fishing. Roy Martin from down in Panama City, Florida, who holds more saltwater world records than any man alive. Jim Rogers from Lamar, Missouri. Those were the greatest bass fishermen, and they all came down to fish Tenkiller for the championship when I was a high school senior, and I took care of their boats for them. And because I lived there on the lake, they all wanted to take me fishing. Well, it was like the greatest thing in the world for a 16-year-old kid. It'd be like people now at 16 years old going out and fishing with Hank Parker tomorrow, and then the next day going and fishing with Bill Dance, the next day going and fishing with Edwin Evers, and they're going, whoa, my gosh, I'm fishing with the best fisherman in the world at 16 years old. Well, that's what I was doing.
Right.
And they wanted me to go because I knew the lake. I didn't realize that. I was going, I caught fish on this area over here, you know, and so we'd go over and fish it. But I saw the best bass fishermen in the world. I was in the boats with them, and the things they did and the way they approached the water and the way they cast and the way they worked lures, I'm just thought, and my dad was a great bass fisherman, but obviously he wasn't in their league, but it's like a kid that's got, well, your dad's a great bass fisherman, and again, you could outfish him, just like I could outfish my dad eventually, but so I had all of that early deal of my dad and my uncles fishing, but then I had that experience with those guys, and there was unlimited practice time, so they come down there and fish for like 2 weeks, and they were paying me like $20. I think $20 a week. I'd like to say $20 a night. I don't think it's that much to watch their boats, because there wasn't a dock or anything. They just pull their boats up on the bank and leave them there during the night. And I would sleep down there in my pickup and watch them, and then I'd go to school the next day. And then I'd come home from school, and 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd go fishing with one of them. And it was just like, I guess that probably, all of that stuff probably worked together to create a kid that's just a monster, loved to fish.
So when you graduated college, did you have other jobs, or did you ever, like before you started the TV career or the tournament winning career and sponsors, what other jobs did you ever hold?
When we graduated from college, I talked to a lot of companies just like everybody does when they get out of college, and we came very close to going to work for Phillips Petroleum out in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. I've got a degree in economics and one in political science, but our original goal was one reason I had the political science degree was I intended when I graduated to go to Oklahoma University Law School and become a lawyer. But I was married, I had a baby girl, and I was just tired of being broke. I was tired of not having any money, and I told Chris, I can't go to school for 3 more years. I can't, I don't want to do it. And she said, whatever you want to do. It's always been your goal to be a lawyer. And I didn't have a real propensity or a real noble cause of being a lawyer, which is probably the reason God kept me from being a lawyer. And I tell people that God saved me from being a lawyer. And my buddies all say, God saved us from you being a lawyer, not you. He saved us from you being a lawyer. And but Chris said, that's what you always wanted to do. And I said, yeah, but I said, I don't. And fortunately, God did save me from being a lawyer. And so when we graduated, but we didn't want to move away from Lake Tenkiller. Right. That love for fishing was greater than any desire to go out and make a living. And so rather than going to Bartlesville, Oklahoma, we stayed there on Tenkiller, and we started an insurance agency from scratch, nearly starved to death. But we worked that insurance agency into a very successful agency. We had a great success at that, and we sold, we made $1 million round tables and all kinds of awards and won trips and made a lot of money selling insurance. And we eventually evolved into a total insurance agency that was handling all kinds of insurance. We started selling life insurance, and that was good and it was easy, and you could make a lot of money at it. And then we evolved into everything else because all the people we sell life insurance to, they wanted car insurance and homeowners insurance and business insurance, and eventually that evolved into a pretty big commercial insurance business. But during all that time, I kept fishing all the time.
The whole time you're fishing?
And I did a job with Monarch Boats where I'd sell boats on the side, end up making about 40, 50 grand a year selling boats on the side just as a part-time deal. And I started fishing these BASS and Project Sports, and I'd fish like 1 or 2 tournaments here and there. And we started doing store appearances and getting sponsors. And I was running around fishing, and Chris was running the insurance agency. And the insurance agency was very successful, but it's very stressful because we were by then doing, and the insurance business is one like fishing. You continually learn. As you move up further, you learn more and more and more. Same way, and you learn more. And she was running the insurance agency. I was just showing up every now and then. And she had all the pressure of making sure
Making
she
it
had
succeed.
all of this figured out right. And you know, and I walked in up there one day and she'd hired somebody to answer the phone or something, and the girl asked if she could help me. I said, "What do you mean, can you help me?" And she said, "Well, could I help you? What do you need?" And I said, "I own this place." And she said, "Oh my God, you're Jimmy." And I said, how long you been working? She said, 3 weeks. And I said, "I got a problem."
Yeah.
And so we sold that agency and that fished full time. And then I guess once we sold that might have been the time that I really was a pro fisherman.
That's when it all happened.
People probably were calling me one before that. But and you know, though, for a long time, Edwin, and you may still run into it. You run into somebody on an airplane, you're flying somewhere to do a personal appearance, and what do you do for a living?
The dreaded question.
And what do you do for a living? Well, I'm a professional fisherman. Now we can say a professional bass fisherman, and people understand. But I'd say, well, I'm a professional fisherman. Really? Well, you got a shrimp boat?
Yeah.
Or, what do you mean? You run net? What do you mean?
Guide?
Yeah. Are you a guide? No, I fish tournaments. What kind of fishing tournaments?
Yeah.
They have fishing tournaments? Well, yeah, I just won $50,000 out in California last week. You brag a little bit. This is a big deal. This is a big deal, fishing tournament. But it's changed totally. And you know, you aspire to become a pro. We never aspired to become anything in this industry. Mm-hmm. And the industry just, you know, sort of built around people like me and people like Bill Dance and Roland Martin, and we talked about Tom Mann. The industry sort of just built itself around, and Ray Scott, the guy that started BASS. Yeah. The industry built around a handful of people, starting in the late 60s, which is, you know, before most people were born nowadays. And it just grew into that. But I think the young guys nowadays, I think it's a totally different deal because they can aspire to be an Edwin Evers. They can aspire to be Bill Dance. They can aspire to be Kevin Van Dam or Ricky Clunn or, you know, on and on and on. They can aspire to be these guys. And they can start in high school and they can be on high school fishing teams. They can now go to college on a bass fishing scholarship.
Full ride
Think about
scholarship.
that.
I know.
Would you and I'd
I'd
still been
love
there.
that, yeah.
You and I'd still been there.
Yeah.
What's your degree, Jimmy? Pick one. I
got them all.
I got it. Jimmy, how long have you been here? 64 years. I'm the captain of the bass fishing team. Yeah. But now they can do that, and I think it's wonderful, and it's a great profession to aspire to. Mm-hmm. And I think the critical things, and I've told the kids this forever, is to try to acquire as much knowledge as you can about the game, because this game is played right up here. Mm-hmm. And it's played with mechanical skills that you got to get good at. Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot of time and effort. I mean, for me, it was hard to learn how to just throw a casting reel. I mean, I picked out a bazillion backlashes, and it was just hard for me to learn how to do that. So the mechanical skills are important, and the better you can get at them, the better you're going to be. I mean, some of the guys right now can, with a casting reel, you know, skip 20, 30 feet underneath docks. I can't. I skip a little ways back there behind them, but if I want to skip 20 or 30 feet, I got to use a spinning reel to do it. Right. Some of the pros now are doing that with the casting reels, and they're really, really good at it. So you got to learn the mechanical skills, but the majority of the game is played right up here. It's played with knowledge. And so I told the kids, and it's the same now, is acquire all that knowledge you can. I think it's beneficial for kids to get a college education. Obviously, it's not mandatory or necessary to be a professional fisherman. But you look at a lot of the very, very successful fishermen. I mentioned Ricky Clunn a minute ago. You know, Ricky Green, who's not with us anymore, you know, had a degree in chemistry, working as a chemist when he turned pro. Ricky Clunn, you know, Roland Martin's got a degree from the University of Maryland.
Ken Cook had a degree.
Ken Cook. Yeah. You can name so many of particularly the earlier, and a lot of the young guys now have all got a degree because they go fish on a college scholarship. It's important to get that college degree. But now, if you're really into it, if you really have that passion, like those kids have at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, like you and I did. Mm-hmm. And my passion came just from, you know, probably from my parents and my uncles, and that little taste of stuff when I was a senior in high school with those, you know, the best bass fishermen in the world at that time. That's where my passion came. But we got our knowledge from just simple experience on the water. Right. And that's good. You could have a Sports Afield or a Field and Stream or an Outdoor Life magazine, and you'd read one article every now and then about bass fishing. it was written usually by somebody from New York. We didn't know that. They didn't know what they were talking about. We didn't know that. And we had maybe 1 or 2 television shows, but now you have a plethora of television shows, and you have YouTube, and you have Facebook, and you have Instagram, and you have blogs and vlogs and all of this around. These kids they get so knowledgeable. There's 12-year-olds. There's 12-year-olds that know more about bass fishing than you and I did 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Now, the reason we know more about it maybe than they do now is we've learned ourselves in the last 10 years. We've learned in the last 5 years, the last year. We learned, and with the electronics we've got now, we're learning some things that we sort of proved by trial and error, and we believed but we wasn't sure of. We've learned some of the reasons why those are 100% correct. And yet we've learned why some of the things that we thought was true are not. And that'll always be. And we don't know what's on the horizon, but that's the deal. Get as much knowledge as you possibly can. There's no substitute for spending as much time on the water as you can. If you don't have a boat, go fish off the bank. Buy you a kayak. Go.
You can learn a lot fishing from the bank.
You learn a lot. A boy in California just caught a 15-pound bass fishing off the bank on a lipless crankbait. I talked to him. Talked to him this week. And but learn as much, and then get in some sort of local tournaments. If you're a very good fisherman at a local level, a regional level, the folks will find you. Everybody.
That's what I always tell them.
Take
care of the fishing end of it.
They'll find you. They're looking for 18-year-olds and 20-year-olds and 25-year-olds. They're still doing stuff with Edwin and me, and still doing stuff with Bill Dance and Roland. Those guys are archaic. They're like 90 or 100 years old, I think.
So I got a question for you then. Let's back up a little bit. So give me probably the best decision you ever made in your career, and maybe the worst decision you ever made in your career. In my mind, I sit here and I think about, just you were kind of the godfather of the spinnerbait for a long time, and how you did all that. But then I think about just your career in the television and how hard you've worked over that over the last 40 years. I mean, was that your best decision ever, is to start that? And what would, maybe you've never had a bad decision. I think you made a great decision in buying this place here that we're sitting, and all the deer around here was pretty phenomenal. But
yeah, this probably was the greatest decision ever. But the television show was. I think you're probably right on that. The greatest decision was not going on to law school.
Yeah.
I'd have probably made a lot more money. I'd have had a lot less friends. Wouldn't have near as much fun. But that was probably the greatest decision I ever made. Was not to go on to law school. And I probably would have had some of your money. If I'd have been a lawyer. And the bad part about that is I might have ended up going into politics like a lot of lawyers done. And I don't know how. That probably would have been a really bad deal. So that was really probably the best decision that we'll never know for sure. But, we started the television show. This is 45 years we've been doing the television show. And we were guests on quite a few different television shows. Our own Joe Krieger here in Oklahoma, Don Wallace out of Oklahoma City, John Fox, who just died here recently, 91 years old. I went to John Fox's 90th birthday party a year ago, and he a year ago in January, and he just died within the last couple of weeks at 91 years old. Great tournament fisherman, a great television show, John Fox, American Angler. And I was on his show and several of those television shows, and people said, man, you ought to start a fishing show. You ought to start a fishing show. And quite honestly, that's what caused me to start looking at a television show. And I got a hold of a bunch of Bill Dance's tapes and a bunch of Roland Martin's and watched their shows. And I thought, I'll give it a shot. And honestly, I almost am embarrassed to tell you, but it was a really crass reason why I started in the television show business. I started in the television show business simply to make money out of it. And that's pretty crass, but most people start outdoor fishing shows or hunting shows or combination shows because they want to fish and hunt more. I was fishing and hunting all the time anyway. I was fishing a lot, fishing plenty, I was hunting plenty, and I started just because I thought it was a good way to make money. And it's been a real blessing, and we've been doing it for 45 years, but that's probably the very best decision.
Neat. So did you ever wear a hat? Have you ever wore a hat in your career?
We wear one hunting. We wear them hunting sometimes.
Ever fishing? In the early days of tournament fishing, did you ever wear a hat?
No.
Never?
No. We wear hats if it's raining If it's raining, I'll put a hat on, because when you put your rain gear on, your rain gear comes down over your eyes, so you have to have a hat to hold that top of it up.
Yeah.
And so I put it on. I've got an old Ranger Gore-Tex hat that is orange.
Yeah.
And I wore that hat the other day for the first time in a YouTube video, and people went ballistic. They didn't know who it was. They thought I was Bill Dance. It did not have a T on it. It says Ranger on the top of it. It is like a 30 or 40-year-old Ranger hat. We've been running Ranger boats since the fall of 1968.
That's amazing.
A 69 model,
That's
the first one we
amazing.
bought from Forrest. And it's Gore-Tex, so it's dry. And all the insides have gone out of it, but it's really a good old hat. And every now and then, Chris tries to throw it away, and I find it.
Do you still have any of the one-piece jumpsuits that you guys wore back then?
I don't know if I got any of those or not. Ray Scott started that nonsense. Wasn't that something? You put all those patches on them.
Yeah.
You sew all those patches on, and
I think you had an orange one. Is my memory
no,
correct?
red.
Red.
I'm
Yeah.
like.
I'm
I'm
a little colorblind, but I think
I'm
that's
like
what
Eric Jackson, a red one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had a red one, but one of the things that we have probably helped us so much throughout in tournament fishing is we've always tried to put a little flair in it. Some of the early Bassmaster Classics, I had a friend of mine, Sherry Brockhouse in Tulsa, that I fished in white slacks a lot.
Yeah.
And I still fish in, the same thing you're fishing in, which I think is comfortable. I think it looks nice on television as opposed to jeans. And I know Bill Dance thinks he looks good in jeans, but he don't look that great in jeans anymore. I'm just telling you. But I had on white bell-bottom pants, which bell-bottoms was the deal. And I thought, if we could just put some stars and stripes down the side of those. So I went to one Bassmaster Classic with stars and stripes, a strip of them.
What did Chris say when you said this to her?
She liked it.
She liked it?
I think she did.
You think she did? She's still with
But I showed up, and that one year, Sports Illustrated covered the Bassmaster Classic. And Sports Illustrated,
biggest magazine at the time.
yeah, by far, it was a big deal. And they covered the Bassmaster Classic. And who's got a full page in the Bassmaster Classic that didn't come close to winning the Bassmaster Classic?
Jimmy Houston.
It's some blonde-headed kid with no hat and white bell-bottoms with stars and stripes running down the deal. That was in there.
Yep.
And that's what several guys said. Well, they put a full page in their review. I said, it's not me.
You look the best.
It's the pants, man.
Yeah,
It's like the basketball stars talk about. It's the shoes.
funny.
It's the pants.
That's
it's the
funny.
pants. But we've always kind of had a flair for stuff like that, and we fished tournaments. One time we fished tournaments for 2 or 3 years. We had a lipstick red Lincoln Continental with a big white those leather tops they had on them. Back was such a big deal.
You pull your boat with that?
Pull my boat with it, man. You go wheeling into a tournament in a lipstick red and white Lincoln Continental, and I remember, and I tell you what an impact it had. I had a friend of mine that.
Can you imagine pulling up to a tournament today in that car?
Oh, when I pulled up to one at Lake Powell, and a friend of ours that's been a big guy in this business for years, he said he looked up there and he saw that thing pull up that Ranger boat. He saw me get out and he said, I don't know who that kid is. He's going to be a star. And this guy has worked in the industry for a long time.
I'd
it's
say
just sort of
done well.
a little crazy
well.
flair, and it all adds up. But I think that the young people need to realize that, quite honestly, the sponsors are really not interested in how great a fisherman you are. You're a great fisherman if you can work it to the top level. And even when we had in BASS 300 people fishing, and maybe you had 100 or 125 really good fishermen, another 50 at the other end that couldn't hit the water hardly, and then everybody else sort of in between. If you were a good fisherman, you could work your way to the top, and you would start being recognized, and the sponsors would recognize you. So, and nowadays with the organization set up the way they are, and they're changing all the time, obviously, and evolving, and they will continue to evolve. But with BASS and Major League Fishing and FLW, once you get up to the top level, all the sponsors know you're a good fisherman. You gotta be a good fisherman to get there. And then, and the game, the fishermen are so good, it's kind of like professional golf, professional everything anymore. There's not a whole lot of difference between the number 1 player and the number 50 player in, say, the hitters in Major League Baseball. Number 50 player is a really good hitter. And it's the same way, you know, and so whomever's winning and whoever's hot is everybody kind of like to have that guy right now, but they realize that this time next year somebody else is going to win Angler of the Year. This time next year somebody else is going to win the Classic. This time next year somebody else is going to be the hot stick they're talking about. But what those sponsors are looking for is they're looking for people that will represent them with integrity, with honesty, that can talk to the public and can sell their product. Because if you win every tournament, but whomever you're representing is not selling anything, they're going to fire you.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to say, man, you had a great year, Edwin, but we haven't had a great year. We're not selling much, and we really hate to part companies, but we're going to part companies with you. And if you're also that kind of individual that maybe you're the one that the guys talk about, well, I don't know if he's really playing fair all the time or not. Or, you know, he's just not good to get along with. Or fans start talking about, wow, I don't know who he thinks he is, but he wouldn't even, my little 5-year-old boy thinks he's the greatest guy in the world. He wouldn't even stop and say hi. And you've seen guys like that. The great thing about our industry is most of the guys are good guys.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have many of that, but the industry weeds them out. But the kind of people that the sponsors are looking for and the kind of people the young guys want to become is people like Edwin Evers. That's what they want to do. They want to be people.
Whoa, time out. That's the first time you said my name right all day long.
I've said it right every single.
You have not.
I've said
That's
Evers
the very first time you said it right in your TV show and this YouTube channel in the 20 years that you've known me.
Well, I know I've got it wrong.
It's like today is the day. I finally got recognized by Jimmy Houston. Finally.
I have to admit, I've got it wrong a few times. You have a 50-50 chance of getting it right. You say Evers or Evers, you got it right.
I made it.
I know that I've said it correctly every single time. We have videotape proof of it. I've said it every single time today.
Okay, buddy. Okay.
Yesterday, maybe not. Day before, maybe not.
But okay. I got video proof on this video the first 2 times you hadn't said it right.
You know, I get the honor of emceeing all the Bass Pro Shop openings all around the country.
Every time you say it wrong.
And Edwin Evers is Edwin Evers is there at quite a few of them, and every time we get off the stage, he said, Chippy, we've known each other forever, and you still say my name wrong. Okay, I'll get it right the next time, and I can do it wrong again.
Yeah,
it's been right all day today. All right, all day.
We'll see. We'll see. You guys will see.
Yeah, but that's the kind of people that the sponsors are looking for. They're looking for young, good fishermen. They all are. In fact, I have sponsors have talked to me for years now about what are we going to do when Bill Dance quits? What are we going to do when Roland Martin quits? When Ricky Clunn? When Kevin Van Dam? When Hank Parker? Who's going to replace these guys? And they've been asking me that for 20, 25 years. And honestly, none of those guys have ever quit yet. They're all still playing, even Bill, you know. And Roland turned 81 this year, and he's as passionate about the game as he was when he was 8, I believe.
Oh,
it's amazing. He's amazing. And that's the other part of the game, though, is you can play it forever. If you're playing professional golf, you can play past 50 because of the seniors tour. If you're playing in the NBA, Major League Baseball, the NFL, professional hockey, tennis, whatever, you can't play this game at 81 years old like Roland Martin's doing. You can't play it at 80 like Bill Dance. You can't play it Ricky Clunn, 74, still playing national tournaments, and won a tournament just last year. Yeah. And, not just playing, but actually won a tournament, competing very, very well. And so that's one of the great things about it. And I think it's great for a youngster to aspire to play this game. I think it's great.
Thank you, man, for sharing your stories. Awesome hospitality.
It's always enjoyable.
No, I just honored to get to spend some time with you, and really interesting. I really thank you.
Did you kill that big bull with a bow?
I wish I would have. Did you?
I did.
Where at?
I was hoping you would ask.
Yeah.
That one came from Utah, Vernal, Utah.
Wow.
Vernal, Utah.
You got some amazing deer in here.
He's got a medal. He had a medal around his neck, said Alumni of the Year. Crazy.
A lot of neat memorabilia in here. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
All right, bud. Enjoyed
I appreciate it.